What is going on, folks? I am Goat, and welcome back to the Breakdown Season Finale. Yeah, I don't do off-season stuff. I said this in the preseason. I don't like doing off-season stuff. I don't like doing draft. There's enough of that going around. Y'all don't need my dumb ass sitting there live streaming the draft and, live streaming games and all that stuff, because honestly, God almighty, I got something in my eye. Honestly, I like to kick back and just watch fucking games. So that's how it is. And as far as the draft, I really don't care. Hear me out. I don't care because whatever the teams are going to do, they're going to do. Whatever my basic ass predictions are going to be anyway. Lots of teams end up moving up on, unknowingly. Some are pretty obvious. Some choices don't make any fucking sense just because of depth of team, and you don't see the big picture until the season gets going. So why should I sit there and worry about it, right? Just my thoughts. So we're going to go in depth into what the inevitable conclusion of the Super Bowl, what, 57? Yeah. So we're going to basically go over the statistics of this game very quickly, as much as I can, and I'm just going to go over some of my jotted notes here, and we're going to finish the season out, okay? So, Chiefs versus Eagles on that bullshit turf at Arizona that took out Harrison Butker at the beginning of the season and nearly took out the Eagles kicker during this fucking game. Dude, by the way, that field was bullshit. Players were slipping, cameramen were slipping, fucking officials were slipping. I mean, $800,000 on that fucking field, and that was the shape it was in. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Come on. That was terrible. So, as predicted, Chiefs edged out the Eagles at the end of the game, 38-35. I said it was probably going to be high scoring, and I said it was going to be a close fucking game. And I actually had to delete a really obnoxious comment on the video right after I posted it, calling me basically fucking retarded, and I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. That's what I got for you. Now, before I go into notes or stats or anything else, I want to give props to both teams. The Philadelphia Eagles did a lot better than I thought they would, truth be told. The entirety of the first half is almost what I predicted and said could happen with that team. If they could maintain control of the time of possession and just keep the fucking ball away from the Chiefs weren't going to do anything. Like, they weren't going to be, in order to be able to mount a comeback, you have to have possessions. The Chiefs had 3 in the first half, okay? The Eagles dictated exactly what they wanted to do in the first half of this game. And overall, if you look at Jalen Hurts' growth in the NFL, that was probably that motherfucker's best game. Hands down, best game. He had one mistake. Truthfully, he had one just kind of shit mistake. It happens to the best of the quarterbacks in the fucking league. I mean, fucking Mahomes had this same kind of, scenario happen in the fucking championship game. It happens. It just happened to be in a really bad spot with multiple Chiefs players around, and he had a fumble. We'll get into that, okay? The Eagles don't have anything to hold their heads low, man. Nothing. They played a lights out fucking game. And if it were against any other opponent other than Kansas City, even only scoring 11 points in the second half, with going into the second half already having 24 on the board, would normally more than put away any other team. Let's be honest. If you go into halftime 24 with 24-14 over just about any other goddamn team in this league, and you still put up an additional 11 points after the fact, that's typically enough to beat another team. 35 fucking points. That's not a punk ass number, but I did point out that the few teams that actually had some decent quarterbacks that the Eagles did go against, they put up some fucking numbers on them. Okay, they put up some fucking points, and that's what happened in the second half of this game. Chiefs ended up edging out the Eagles 38-35 with 8 seconds left in the game. And oh my God, man, there's so many people talking about a penalty, but we'll get to that. So as far as statistics went, this is why I say the Eagles don't have shit to hold their heads low about. They need to kind of re-scheme a few things maybe, but they don't have anything to be embarrassed about or feeling down about, okay? The Eagles, 417 total yards, 304 passing with a touchdown and a lost fumble by Jalen Hurts. It happens. Where I say they need to re-scheme is the rushing attack. Everybody was screaming about their 3-headed monster rushing attack plus Jalen Hurts, so massive RPO option game. Okay, they had a grand total of 115 rushing yards across 4 rushers, and 70 of that was from Jalen Hurts. He had three rushing touchdowns, by the way, but he had the most rushing yards out of all 4 of the guys running the ball. They were 3 of 3 on field goals. They had a total of 72 plays, 25 first downs, 11 for 18 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down, which I still say that fourth down play should be illegal, but whatever. I mean, I get why it works. You bulldoze the legs out from everybody, quarterback jumps over top. Okay. With a whole bunch of people pushing behind him. I don't know. It is what it is. They allowed 2 sacks. Only punted the ball twice. They had 6 penalties for a grand total of 33 yards. Obviously, the 1 fumble lost for a scoop and score touchdown. No interceptions, and their time of possession was 35 minutes and 47 seconds. It's kind of what you would expect from the Eagles, aside from the fumble. The penalties were manageable. The yardage for said penalties were manageable. One of them just hit at a really bad fucking time. The Chiefs, on the other hand, 340 total yards. Okay, so... what, 75 fucking yards or so difference? 77 yards difference? 340 total yards. Mahomes only had 182 passing yards, but he did have 3 touchdowns, 158 rushing yards across 4 rushers. 76 of that was from Isaiah Pacheco, rookie from the 7th round. 1 touchdown from Pacheco as well, rushing. 1 of 2 for field goals, 53 plays, 21 first downs. They were 50% on third downs, being 4 of 8, and no fourth down attempts. No sacks allowed against a unbelievable rushing attack, but I said it, that they had that soft schedule, and that might make a difference. It is what it is. Only punted the ball twice. They had 3 penalties for a grand total of 14 yards. No fumbles, no INTs, and they only had the ball for 24 minutes and 13 seconds. So we'll go over the Eagles first. They absolutely balled out in the first half. Okay, they basically dictated what they wanted to do. Aside from that fumble, scoop and score touchdown, they dictated what they were going to do. They proved that they were initially up to the task of handling a very solid AFC defense. Sadly for them, they defensively couldn't get to Mahomes for a single sack. They had some very questionable plays in the secondary in the second half, and were pretty terrible with stopping the run overall. Like I said, huge props to Jalen Hurts. He had 1 bad play, being that fumble, scoop, and score, but overall he played very well. It's like I initially said, I had a feeling that if they played their style of ball, that they would be able to dictate time of possession and that they could win. They just didn't do that in the second half at all. The 2 big issues for them, honestly, was where was that elite pass rush? Okay, I don't want to take anything away from this. I really don't. I'm not trying to bag on the Eagles, but where was that elite pass rush, right? How many O-lines did they go against of the caliber of the Kansas City Chiefs, right? One of the top fucking offensive lines in the NFL. Not many. Hence why they had a lot of sacks this season. They go against a really top-tier O-line. Not so good. Not so good. 0 sacks. And where was their 3-headed monster rushing attack? Had 115 total yards, and 70 of that was their quarterback. I mean, the next closest person to Jalen Hurts was Gainwell with 21 yards. I mean, and that was their top running back, 21 yards. Chiefs did an excellent job defensively holding off that rushing attack. So it is what it is. So we go to the Chiefs. It's like I said at the beginning of this, okay? When you only have 3 possessions in the entire first half and you can't capitalize on 2 of them because you get a doink fucking field goal, a punt, and then you do score a touchdown, okay? That's a problem. It's a big fucking problem. It's a defensive problem, right? It's a lot of rookies, a lot of younger guys in general on the defense, so they just kind of had to get, their bearings, right? They really did. They had to get their bearings big time. Fortunately, they do tend to make pretty solid second half adjustments on both sides of the ball, and even in the special teams they made adjustments. But I got to tell you, Spags got that defense to step the fuck up, and they held the Eagles to only 11 points after dropping 24 on them in the first half. Between Reed and Bieniemy, they got the offense to just wake the fuck up and pop 24 fucking points off for the win. Most especially the longest punt return in Super Bowl history from a guy who the New York Giants traded away for 2 draft picks, being Kadarius Toney. Got him all the way down to the 5-yard line, made it for an easy score. All 3 parts of this team were absolutely up to the challenge in the second half, as the Chiefs have been very much for the last couple of seasons. And truthfully, it just threw at the Eagles a lot more than they can handle. That's just the truth. Now, let's go to the bad calls, okay? Everybody wants to talk about the whole holding call at the end of the game that allowed the Chiefs to run out the clock. You know what? Everybody's only looking at after Juju got out of the break. Go back and watch the fucking game, okay? You can see the holding that kept Juju from making his break, then the light contact. But it was legitimate. Every official online today has been talking about how, you know, it was a legitimate holding call. Is it what everybody wanted to see from a competitive standpoint? No, but was it legitimate enough to keep the, you know, receiver from doing the move that he wanted to do? Yeah, it was a legit call. And James Bradbury called himself out after the game saying, yeah, you know, I held him. I just hope the ref wouldn't, you know, call it. So your argument is invalidated, okay? But secondly, there was another holding call, okay? There was another massive holding call in the second quarter at 13:32 in the second quarter. That was also against Juju Smith-Schuster. And it was a no call, okay? So I don't want to hear about, you know, this whole inhibiting thing and that, you know, this shouldn't have been a thing. There was an even more egregious call that Juju and even, you know, the Greg Olsen, which Greg Olsen was just beating a dead horse with this with that holding call in the fourth quarter. But even Olsen was like, oh yeah, he's rightfully, you know, he's upset and he's got a right to be, because that was definitely, you know, illegal contact or holding, or, you know, this should have been called, blah, 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 blah. And even, you know, I forget who the hell was in the booth with him. Which official was in the booth with him, but even he was like, oh yeah, that's a bad call or bad no call. When your defensive player calls himself out and says, I was just hoping they wouldn't call it. It is what it is. It was egregious enough at the beginning of the hold that the sideline judge was like, no way. But that's not what killed this game, okay? Yes, it killed the clock. It took the game down to the end, and that's it. But basically the entirety of the second half is what killed the game for the Eagles. The Eagles defense just could not get a handle on what the fuck the Chiefs were doing. That's what happened. So any of these salty fans out there that are pissed off about that one goddamn call, go back and look at the other call that didn't get called and what killed that drive, okay? Before you start bitching about the call that kept another drive going that allowed them to kill out the clock and win the game. It is what it is, okay? If they could have made stops previous to that, they wouldn't have been in that position to begin with, and they would have won the game. So one holding call, sorry about your luck. That's not where we're at here, folks, okay? Sorry, we're just not. You know, I mean, like, they had plenty of opportunities. And they just couldn't make it happen. Most realistic Chiefs fans hated how Super Bowl 55 ended, okay? I'm going to be honest, me personally, or me especially. But we weren't begging for bad play, you know, for bad plays or shitty calls at that game, you know, and there were some bullshit calls in that game. There really were. We were out there fucking, you know, beating the city half to death and calling for guys' jobs and everything else. Because the reality of Super Bowl 55 was very simple, okay? The Chiefs went in there with Mahomes banged up. 4 or 5 of their offensive linemen were out of the game with injury, and they were on second and third string offensive linemen. And to top it off, our receivers couldn't catch a fucking thing, okay? Like, when you get hit in a face mask from a ball that was thrown from your quarterback who's playing injured, but who threw the ball from a horizontal position before hitting the ground and hits you in the face, and you still can't catch this fucking ball, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Super Bowl 55 was a mess for the fucking Kansas City Chiefs, and they got their asses handed to them in that game. So for them, this was more of a redemption game if they weren't just a fluke. I get that. Okay? What I can say is this. At the end of the day, the Eagles with the roster that they have right now, and I don't know how much they're going to be able to hold on to this roster considering there's going to be a payday coming for Jalen Hurts. But the Eagles have a very, very bright future with their roster. They've got to tighten up their offensive line just a little bit. And they've got to really be more creative with their run game. Because when you go against bad teams, the expectation is very simple. You go against bad teams and people expect you to win. Okay, especially if you're an elite team. People have an expectation that you're going to win the game. When you go against good teams, they expect struggle. Okay, because that's what good teams do. They battle back and forth. And that's exactly what this game was. This was a battle of fucking attrition. Okay, first half and second half. This was a true battle of attrition between two football teams. And, you know, the line wavered for the Eagles. That's what it was. I give massive props to the Eagles because they went above the expectation that I had for them in regards to, had they been battle tested against good teams? Had they really stepped up and done what they needed to do in order to prove that they had earned the spot that they were in? Because they kind of got a walk through the playoffs. And I don't want to be, you know, take away from what they did, but like, I don't think anybody can argue that the championship game, once both quarterbacks had been taken down, I mean, once Purdy was taken down, it was pretty dire straits at that point. But then once their fourth stringer got a concussion, I mean, that was just a breeze of a game. And then the fact that their defense dominated a questionable fucking Giants O-line, you know, and just basically dictated exactly what the fuck was going to go on in that Giants game. Their playoff run was really not difficult. Their season in general was really not terrible, okay? As far as like the strength of schedule. To where the Chiefs kind of got battle tested, man. They had a few teams that, you know, played surprisingly well at interesting times. They shot themselves in the foot a few times. But they came into this season with a bunch of rookies, you know, two new more veteran style receivers. Okay, being Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster, and then a second-year receiver traded for Kadarius Toney. We're going to talk about that in a second. You know, part way through the season, I think his first game was against the Jags, so like week 10. So we picked him up in between week 9 and week 10. And I mean, you know, then you've got Justin Watson, you know, you've got Sky Moore, you know, and Sky Moore was a big problem in the Indianapolis game as far as punt returns go and kickoff returns, you know, just special teams problems. But he's popped up here and there as being very good. Jody Fortson, I think he's second or third year tight end. He's had some good spots in this season. You know, Clyde Edwards-Helaire started out the season really good, but he came out injured, and we already had 3 other fucking running backs that were able to just fill in the gap. And Isaiah Pacheco just took over the first spot running position for the Chiefs. So it is what it is. So, I mean, the Chiefs had their own 3-headed monster, and they only needed 2. Like you kind of feel bad for Ronald Jones because he gets signed to the team. The expectation is he's going to play. Even Kansas City, you know, fans were like, "Oh fuck yeah, we got Ronald Jones. This is going to be great, man. We're going to have a bunch of good fucking running backs." And I think Jones was rarely played. I mean, it's a good running back, and he got rarely played. So hopefully he finds a better landing spot next year because I doubt we're going to be using him. There's no need. Especially if they hang on to CEH, there's absolutely no need to hang on to Ronald Jones. Let the man go get a job at another team and really kind of shine because the plays that he did have were pretty good. From the Chiefs' perspective, you know, they've already got MVS for another 2 years. Now they've got to try to retain Juju. You know, they're still working with Orlando Brown to try to retain him on the line, working on that whole deal. Man, I mean, there's a lot of players that are still on their rookie contracts or have already been re-signed. Okay? So most of this roster is coming back next year. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So there's not going to be a bunch of change that comes for the Chiefs next year because a lot of this team is there. You know, there's a couple of guys on defense that they're going to have to worry about. There's a couple of guys on offense that they're going to have to worry about, and hopefully they get it sorted out well, especially with the salary cap increase that's coming. Hopefully they do get it sorted out very well, but hopefully these guys all understand that, you know, from the standpoint of winning, sometimes you don't have to be the highest paid player in the fucking league to keep that roster together, to continue your winning ways and to really carry a legacy of your own career. But, you know, we'll see. That's not usually how the NFL works out, but we'll see. No, I hope Jalen Hurts doesn't shoot for the moon for his money. I hope that's the case, because if he does, he's going to lose pieces on that roster. And that roster for the Eagles is not bad. It's not bad at all. I think they need just a little bit of salt sprinkled in that scheme, and I think they're going to be one nasty team to deal with next year. I think Sirianni's going to walk away with this with a really bad taste in his mouth, and he's really going to light a fire under the ass of that team. And I think they're going to come out fucking guns blazing. I really do. As long as they maintain the roster that they've got, maybe change a couple pieces out here and there, but overall, I think they're going to look pretty fucking solid next year. But strength and schedule is going to be a thing, because with them going to the Super Bowl, they're going to get a schedule, okay? And we'll really get to see them get battle tested next year. Because if they get battle tested throughout the season and do well throughout the season, they're going to be a fucking force to be reckoned with in the Super Bowl. You know, I don't know, man. This was an iconic, absolutely iconic Super Bowl. This is the kind of Super Bowl that you want to see. High scoring, competitive, you know, teams just beating the shit out of each other, just forcing plays, controlling time of possession, just running the ball down the other team's throat, doing crazy fucking plays. I mean, just, you know, crazy punt returns, setting records. I mean, come on, dude. Mahomes wins MVP. Then he wins a Super Bowl. Then he wins the Super Bowl MVP. Okay. And he's already won Offensive Player of the Year, 2018. He won Super Bowl in 2019, plus Super Bowl MVP there. I mean, come on, baby. Yeah, it's 27 years old, man. This kid's something. He's something to watch. But Jalen Hurts is no punk either. So, I don't know. Congrats to both teams, honestly. They played a wicked fucking game. They really did. So, on that note, this is Goat signing off for the 2022 season. We will see you folks preseason in 2023, all right? Have a great offseason. Hope if you are a big draft watcher, hope you get to see the players that you'd love to see. Actually, hold on. Before we go, let's talk about Kadarius Toney very quickly. What the fuck to the New York Giants, right? What the fuck? Kids dealing with injuries. I understand that. There's going to be a lot of people that are like, oh, no. He was injury prone. Couldn't keep him on the field. Only played 2 games in the 2022 season. I understand that. Apparently, they need to fire their entire fucking physical training staff because this motherfucker showed up with a sprained hamstring, okay? Or with a strained hamstring and literally played like right after we got him. And yes, he re-aggravated it, was out a couple of games, came back. He had an ankle injury in the championship game, came back for the Super Bowl. I mean, this fucking kid is fast. He's shifty. He's got like Gumby legs. I don't know how the hell the Giants didn't see the talent of this kid, but my God, he is a fucking monster. I mean, he is just a dog of a player. That fucking kid he just wiggling, shifting, doing his crazy shit, and he's fast as fuck. He's kind of scary looking. I give him that because he's like, you know, I mean, he got that look like he's, you know, going to kidnap your kid if you ain't looking. Just joking, but no, seriously. Kudos to Kadarius Toney, being probably the most overlooked player on the Giants roster, coming to Kansas City and immediately getting appreciation here of them going, we gonna use you, buddy. So yeah, hopefully your teams draft the kind of players that you're hoping to see. You know, we'll see where Derek Carr lands. Hopefully that guy can find a team to finish out his career with, because honestly, Derek Carr, in my opinion, with as much bullshit as he's had to put up with from the Raiders, hopefully he can find a little continuity, you know, and a scheme that he can fit with and a coach that he can just kind of relate with and finish out his career strong, because truthfully, I think that would really do Derek Carr some good. Because that guy's a passionate player, and he's not a bad player. He's just had a lot of erratic horse shit from the Raiders organization. So we're going to see where that goes. We're going to see what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to see with the, you know, quarterback carousel in general with the 49ers. I don't see Geno Smith going anywhere. Sean Payton being hired as, the Broncos head coach, that's an interesting ordeal in itself. So if he can flip the Broncos around to more of a winning scheme, it's going to make Kansas City's life a lot more interesting. So, I look forward to that. Two dogs in a fight, two dogs in a fight, and then you got the Chargers. They're always a dog in a goddamn fight. So if the Raiders can sort their shit out, then you're going to have 4 dogs in the AFC West just beating the shit out of each other, which they already do that anyway, except for that last Raiders game. So next season's going to be interesting, man. So yeah, we'll catch up to you in the preseason. I want to thank you very much for watching, taking your time to watch, taking your time to comment, drop your comments and your likes and all that. And, yeah, we'll see where the offseason puts us, and we'll touch base in the preseason, and we'll just do this all again, all right? So you guys have a good one.